Hello, everyone. Happy weekend and happy Pride. This is a special episode of NALO's Thrift Talk. And if you are new, I'm Lola.
And I'm Mary.
I have to turn my phone off. And this is a YouTube channel all about thrifting and reselling what we thrift on places like eBay and Poshmark and Depop, and also using thrifting as a way to create a sustainable lifestyle.
Yes.
And hello to everyone who's already in the chat, and hello to also everyone who might be watching later.
Yes.
So, Nay, do you want to introduce today's topic?
Yes, so we are going to be talking all about Pride Month. I've mentioned before that it is a cause that's near and dear to our hearts. Obviously, for a couple of reasons. Lola is a member of the LGBTQ community, and I am a proud friend of the community, and of course, a very good friend of Lola and her spouse, Chris. And so I, very, very loudly and proudly support them. During Pride Month, I support my friends in the community, and equality. It stands for, something that we really need to talk about right now, especially is that it stands for equality for all. And so, we believe in that too. So, what better time to be talking about that. And the rainbow, the flag, it's all inclusive. It's happy. It's such a happy, wonderful cause. And it's so, if you've ever been to a Pride event, if you haven't, I would suggest after the coronavirus that you go to one. It's very unified, very fun, very just the spirit there is like, just, you can just feel the spirit of one of those events. So I, also wanted to say happy birthday to Lola. It is Lola's birthday today.
So it is my birthday. It just so happens that our show fell on my birthday this year. So it was a nice surprise when I looked at the calendar, which also, I also keep forgetting it's June. I keep forgetting it's my birthday because this year has been just so weird. So it is nice to kind of recenter and remember what time of year it is.
So last year we celebrated Lola's birthday together.
We were at the bins. It was so much fun.
I picked her up for the day and we went to the bins. I said, where do you want to go for your birthday? Of course, right away, she wanted to go thrifting. And then we went out to breakfast. We had just such a great day. So, we're kind of celebrating her birthday this year, even though we're not, physically together. So that's why, I said to her, are you sure you want to do the show today? We can, and she said, yeah, because, it's kind of like celebrating it with, together. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you made me the cutest graphic. But, I guess, should we do my birthday first or should we do our regular segments first?
You have been waiting for so long. So let's do your birthday. Our tradition, Lola and I have a tradition of thrifting.
Presents.
Yeah, we have a tradition of thrifting gifts for each other. We always give each other thrifty gifts. So since I couldn't physically get out to a thrift store this year because of the virus and what's going on, I decided to buy a gift on eBay for Lola from a small eBay seller. So I figured I could support a seller that way, and then I had it directly sent to her. So. And then it came the other day, and
Nay messaged me and was like, don't open it when you get an eBay package from, and then where the seller was located, don't open it. And it was a good thing you said something, because I have been impulse buying so many things on eBay, so I easily could have opened it and been like, oh, I totally forgot I ordered this. What is it?
It's funny because and then your spouse Chris was even bummed. They wanted to open it.
Chris ran over, was like, "Oh my gosh, today's present came. What is it?" And I was like, "I don't know. Can't open it yet." So I have it here. Do you want me to open the card first?
Yeah, you can open the card first.
Okay. Also got a card with cute stickers. Were these stickers also thrifted?
They were, yes.
I would have been disappointed if they weren't.
I tend to do that for my kids, and just for like when I, add notes to buyers and stuff, I like to decorate them. So yeah, those were thrifted, and they had the price tag of 99 cents from probably like the 80s on them, which is really funny.
Yeah, I wish I could celebrate with you too, but this is almost as good as a day at the bins. So we'll have to rain check on our actual next bins trip. But
yeah, definitely. Hopefully next year.
Okay. And you said it was fragile. The seller did do a great job.
Okay, good. Okay.
And it came, like, the box is in perfect shape. So hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm hoping it got there in one piece. So this gift is Lola appropriate. It has to do. It's got a personal connection to Lola. So when she opens that, she'll see.
I'm sure I will know.
Oh yeah, you'll know right away.
You always pick like the best meaningful gifts for me. So.
I just hope it's not. No, I know the seller did. It was obviously a thrifted item from the seller, so it is a re-thrifted. I thrifted a re-thrifted. I re-thrifted it, I guess I could say. So
and that's the best, right? Because it's like almost like actually going to the thrift store, but then you're also supporting another seller. So
yeah, they were really super nice about it too. So.
Oh, it's in styrofoam, so definitely.
Well, that's a good sign.
And peanuts. Oh, I wonder if these are the kind that dissolve. Like I was having fun.
At least you have extra packing material. So
what?
At least you have extra packing material.
Oh, I have so much packing material right now because I keep ordering stuff online. And
we all, yes.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like worse than usual though, because I'm just ordering everything I would normally go to the store for online. Okay, so they look like drink tumblers, maybe?
Mm.
I'm guessing they're glass. She said they were fragile. I will reuse those bubbles. Oh my gosh.
Do you like them? You don't have them, do you?
I think I had these favorited.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So this is the crest of my college, which is where I met my spouse, Chris, and where Chris works now. And it's literally down the street. We live in Smith Housing. And I have a saved search on eBay for anything Smith College because I'm always looking for like weird pieces of Smith history. And I'm like 99% sure I had these favorited or watching on them. Yeah.
That is so funny. Yeah. So I found those and I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. So it's a set of 2.
Love them. Oh my gosh. We are going to have, as I think I've mentioned before, I know you know, Nate, Chris is from Kentucky, so we love bourbon. We always have a few bottles of bourbon around the house. So we will definitely have a nice drink of bourbon.
Awesome. So I'm so glad you like them. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love them.
Yeah. Yeah, and plus you've moved back there now, and so I felt like it was kind of a good home decor item too, because it's appropriate to your location now too. So
absolutely,
yeah.
And someday
I send hugs. I wish I could hug you in person.
I can't wait you can come visit, and I can show you around campus in real life. You can see.
Oh, that would be awesome. Of course, yeah, definitely.
So I just wanted to take a moment and say that today is, of course, it's my birthday. It is also the birthday of Breonna Taylor, who was killed in Louisville, which is where my spouse Chris is from, in March. And I would feel wrong to celebrate without also saying that she should also be celebrating today. And I was thinking like, maybe we could do a moment of silence, but then I decided that there's been too much silence already. And so I wanted to just say a few things I learned about her and reading a few articles about Breonna. She would have been 27 today, so she was younger than me. She was an EMT and worked as a a first responder in the middle of the COVID pandemic and put her life on the line in her daily job, even though that wasn't why she died. She died because of police brutality. And she worked as an EMT because she really wanted to see change in the world, and she wanted to make the world a better place. And she had, it seems like, a million best friends. She was the kind of person who was everyone's best friend. And it seems like an incredible light that was lost in this world. And so happy birthday, Brianna. If you want to do something to help her have justice, you can search the hashtag birthday for Brianna, and her name is spelled Breonna. And there are some actions that you can take, whether it's donating some money to her family's GoFundMe or signing a letter saying that her killers should be brought to justice. If you feel so moved, please do that. And that is my birthday wish for today. So
yes, that is very, very kind of fitting that her birthday is on your birthday, you know, with everything that we're talking about and everything that we stand for and all. So
yeah,
yes.
Definitely. I mean, I care about this, what's happening so much. And then to find out that we shared a birthday, and just imagining that over the past, 26 years, we on the same day, we're celebrating with our families unknowingly that we both existed and we're sharing that day together. It just makes it really that much more personal. So, but on that note, we do have some fun rainbow thrifted clothing that we wore for today's show. So, Nate, are you able to?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm behind here. So this is an 80s vintage. It's actually cotton. It's a Hawaiian shirt that is just super fun, and it's actually comfortable. So I'm wearing that today, and I also have on these earrings, which I also thrifted. I think that I paid $1 for them. They're like they're just plastic. But they're super cute. So those also are in celebration of Pride, and my headband is a little glimmery. So because, all things sparkly and, fun are Pride. So. And
putting the hashtag that I mentioned in the chat. So if anyone wants to look it up on Twitter or just Google it. Awesome. I am wearing a dress that I bought for my birthday last year. And I wanted to treat myself to a birthday dress. And of course, I love vintage dresses. And I happened to see this one on Instagram, and it was rainbow. And I figured, well, it's my birthday.
Yes, very
so I got it. And it fits like a glove. It's one of my favorite dresses, although it's vintage. I think it's from the 40s. It doesn't have a zipper. It just has buttons.
It's for buttons.
Yeah, which helps date it. And it does have, I actually noticed this for the first time as I was putting it on this morning. It has a very small union tag in the seam from Canada, which I've never seen.
Really? I didn't know that I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah.
So when I take this off again at some point, I will have to do some more research, because I just did a cursory glance at different union tags that were used in Canada, and I couldn't find that much information, but that should definitely help date this dress. And maybe if there isn't a lot of information online, my dress can help date the tag, because I think it's pretty obviously 40s, if not late 30s. It definitely is old and beautifully made, so it has held up, but it is a little bit fragile. So hence special occasions only, but it is one of my favorite dresses.
Very cool.
And our thrifted home decor already had one item, thanks to Nay, but I do have another. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I have obviously my Pride flag up here that I have behind me that I'm hanging very proudly. Now, I didn't technically thrift it, but I did buy it from an eBay seller. So, and it wasn't expensive, and I love it, and I'll fly it with Pride. I'll use it. I'll use it for various things. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I needed a big. I have a little pride flag, but I needed a big one anyway. So you know,
Good. I have a little pride flag, but I need a big one.
oh, you don't have a big one, and I do.
No, I did actually. I recently ordered one.
Funny.
It hasn't come yet, but I did order one. So we've been wanting to hang one outside for a long time. So finally do that. And as I mentioned, I've been buying a ton of stuff on eBay because I'm mostly trying to stop doom scrolling on Twitter. And so I kind of window shop on eBay. And later in this show, we're going to talk a little bit more about how the items we thrift can be sort of objects that can teach us things. And this is a weird example of that. It is a small knitting gauge, so you can tell what size needle you have. And it is from 1933. It actually has the patent date on it, so it's really easy to date. And on it, it has all of this different information about needle sizes and different yarns and different terms for yarn that aren't used anymore. So, and then what needle size you want to use for it. So as everyone knows, if you watch the show, I'm a big knitter and I love vintage things. And so I love knitting vintage patterns. And sometimes they are hard to figure out because the terminology is so different from then and now. So this is something that is going to help me decipher some of the old vintage patterns I have. And it is a really cool little artifact to hang in my knitting room with my yarn. So home decor and a little piece of history. And I have to also say that I specifically asked the seller to package it carefully, and she did an amazing job. It came beautifully wrapped. So hooray for good packing and good sellers.
I also have this is kind of a mug that's near and dear to my heart. So it says J'aime Paris.
Oh, I love it.
So this mug is something that could be thrifted, of course, but it is actually genuine from the 80s. So back in, I think it was 1986 or 7, Lola this was probably, appropriately the year that Lola was born.
When I was born.
I was in 6th grade at the time, and I had a French exchange student who I'm still friends with to this day. Her name was Julie, and we still keep in touch, and it was a wonderful experience. And this is one of the gifts that she brought me when she came here.
So cool. And you still have
a genuine tourist, a Paris mug from the 1980s, and I've kept it all these years. I don't usually use it because I don't want to break it, but because it has sentimental value. But I thought it was very appropriate for Pride, yeah, because it is very Pride appropriate too. So
absolutely, that is such a cool story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that is the kind of thing that you can find at the thrift store too. That is, not necessarily wasn't produced for Pride, but very Pride appropriate, and a lot of Pride people love, thrifting. They love fun stuff, and also they would, I think the LGBTQ community is really more open to like those funky vintage, rainbow items.
Yeah, there's definitely like a really strong DIY vibe in the queer community, and also sort of often very anti-capitalist, anti-corporations, and much more willing to spend money on places like eBay and Etsy. And so it definitely is fun to know that when I'm thrifting and finding these really funky things, that I'm also like providing some of these really cool items to a broader audience and getting them in homes that are going to love them. So.
Yes.
And on that note, here is our main segment for today. So I wanted to start this off by saying something a little bit political, which is already not the first time I've done that this episode, but it's really important. And I know, we don't really shy away from our politics here, and often it's not the center of what we talk about. So it's also obviously our YouTube channel is not the most political, but we don't hide our allegiance. Yeah, exactly. And I think that because what is going on in the world. And if people are watching this later, we're filming this in the middle of a lot of Black Lives Matter protests, protesting police brutality against Black people in America. And I think that it's important to take a moment to remember that everything we do is political in some way. So there's a lot of diverse viewpoints who are in the thrifting community, and I definitely respect that. But I think it's easy to say, oh, no politics in this zone, when what we do is quite political, even if the impact we make politically is very, very small. So when we thrift, we're taking part in an act that chooses what is saved and what is thrown away. Especially when we go to places like the bins, we see it all the time, that we know if we don't pick something out of the bin and nobody else does, it's probably going to go into a landfill. And so we're choosing what we ascribe value to. And some of that is not just on us, it's also, predicting what buyers might be interested in, knowing what has value on eBay, looking at comps and things like that. But sometimes it's also the things that catch our eye. And I know that, like, we see it all the time when we go thrifting. We basically share one brain. And yet when we look at our carts, like, you can immediately tell which one's yours and which one's mine, because we still gravitate to often the same things, but just slightly different enough that, like, we have a personality in what we thrift.
Yes.
And so even if you're trying to go in super objectively and only look for like high dollar flip items, you're still like sort of subconsciously gravitating to things that you see value in. And so I think it's good to think about what that means and what we might be looking at and overlooking. And a good way for me to think of this as someone who comes from sort of an academic background is the idea of archival silence. So in archives, what was saved and is considered valuable, when the archives were collected 50, 100 years ago, or even 15, 20 years ago, may not be what we deem to be important now. And so a lot of that means that there are absences in terms of women, in terms of people of color, and these are intangible objects, right? So something like this is a piece of history that tells us something that may have been overlooked by an archive because it's about knitting, which is women's work and is generally considered less important history. But here I am digging it up. And so there's the ability that we have in finding value in things that actually does serve to not only construct these archives, because our own possessions are a type of archive, but also can help maybe correct, if we try, to save things that other people might overlook, and yet in the future we think might be worth saving for thrifters down the line or historians down the line. Which is all to say, queer history is one of those things that often does not appear in the archives. And so we might be in the position to be at an estate and find a trove of documents that document the life of a gay man or a lesbian or a trans person, and be able to then make sure they get in the right hands and can be saved for history.
And we can kind of bring that into light too, because a lot of it was suppressed. It was kind of underground because it wasn't considered. It was people were in the closet more because they were afraid that they were going to get killed. Frankly, for just being who they were, which is really sad. But it was a different time, and luckily things are progressing. They're not perfect, obviously, but that's another thing that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So there are lots of people who are super avid collectors of LGBT history, and there's a lot of people who do have what they really consider are their own personal archives of this history. But there is so much stuff in the world, and we all see it all the time. It's overwhelming how much stuff moves through thrift stores and gets to the bins. It's so easy to overlook these things. So I think that each of us as thrifters, can be on the lookout, and it may not just be about queer history. It could be, any of a number of small niche and overlooked histories that I might not even know about aren't being preserved, and it might not be, even a minority group. It could be something, you know, about esoteric knowledge that would be lost without saving a book. You know what I mean? So that is my very long-winded introduction to what I wanted to talk about today, because I am very cautious about participating in rainbow washing, which I know, Nay, you also have a thing about pink washing. So that's something we can.
Yeah, and I did mention that. I actually mentioned that.
Yeah.
I added that like after you went to bed last night. I'm not sure, but about rainbow washing. So
yes,
that was
I saw this morning that you had.
Okay, that was on my mind too. That just like the pink wash, people. It's basically people using a genuinely good cause that's important to, and abusing it for their own for their own
monetary gain, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be scrupulous about what charities you're giving to, what you're buying. Not everything is, so there's a lot of breast cancer items, the same thing with pride items that do nothing to support charities, and they're labored in some sweatshop somewhere, it's not, you're not really supporting good. Are you wearing them and supporting a good cause and showing your pride? Yes, but it's kind of whoever is, people are profiting for the wrong reasons, and that's just not cool.
Right. And so I don't want to be sort of promoting that, but I do think there's a happy medium that we can strike between buying cool, funky pride stuff and wearing our pride proudly and contributing to that. So on that note, which I think I've been saying a lot today, so I should cut that out of my vocabulary.
Yeah. So
if you are not familiar with Pride, which at this point is pretty mainstream cultural event, but it does take place. It is the month of June is Pride Month, and then Pride events usually happen on
during normal times.
Yeah. During normal times, right? When people can congregate more safely. They usually happen on mid to late June weekends. So usually on a Sunday, and it depends based on where you are. But so this is the time of year, and even maybe starting late May, when people are like, oh shoot, I need a cool Pride outfit, I need some cool accessories, and we'll be going online. Yeah. So one thing that I always pick up any time of year, but list now if you can, are funky vintage Pride, like this dress, for example. My birthday happens to be in June, but I totally would have jumped on it because it's rainbow and it was June when I saw it listed. Yeah. Nay, you pulled up some of these really fun, like geometric sweaters with rainbow.
Yeah, these are all from Depop, and that is an excellent platform to sell this kind of stuff on. Mm-hmm. Anything rainbow and vintage, it's just very, very, and it's fun, because when on our last show that we did at like midnight, I had a shirt like that was from the 80s. It was not a pride cause, but it had a rainbow heart on it. It was super cute. And, it was something like that you would buy on Depop, or, so Depop, Etsy is another one that, that has, but this is an example of some of the things that you would be looking for.
Totally, yeah.
You're missing the game completely if you just list it and don't think about pride, if you don't use the right keywords.
Yes, and any time of year, it is totally appropriate. If you have an awesome rainbow item, you can feel free to use pride keywords. Yeah. It's not limited to June. People are always thinking ahead, or they feel an affinity to an item that has a rainbow on it. You're not doing something wrong if you're not part of the queer community to use terms like LGBTQ. So,
absolutely, you're supporting the community. And there's a lot of people that also, like Angelique said, she has 2 sons that are in the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of people that have loved ones. I love you, Lola. You're my best friend. And, so I proudly support that. I would consider having, a family member, obviously you're my family member. So, I treat it like that. And there's a lot of people that have, you don't have to know anyone or be friends with anyone but I think we all do at this point. But, just supporting the cause is enough. You don't have to feel like, oh, well, I'm not a member of the community, so I can't, No, you absolutely can rock all the rainbow you want and support it loudly and proudly.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, this is an example that I saw.
So good. This is like perfect for 2020 quarantine pride because
Yeah,
that's when they're super in, since they're just like flowy and comfy, and yet it's also rainbow.
So this one this one sold for $57, and it was obviously not produced for Pride, but it was a vintage 80s, and they could have had some better keywords there too, but and I think their pictures could have been a little better, but they still sold for $57. But you get the idea that is like the perfect quintessential Pride item. That
totally.
I have one here. If you can bring me up on the big screen, this is actually a vintage. Yeah, it's a vintage Hawaiian shirt. You can see the brand. I believe it's 80s. Jason can correct me on that if I'm wrong, because he's in the chat. But I purchased it for the show because, and I might, if I'm going to resell it, I would probably resell it on Depop.
Totally.
But I purchased it from a member of the eBay community that I knew. So I was supporting a small seller on that, and it's not, again, it wasn't something that was manufactured for Pride in the 80s, but it is like the perfect Pride item, so.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of thing that you would definitely sell on.
Yeah. On Depop, I could see someone buying that specifically to like cut it into a crop top, and then some people who are really tiny actually turn it into like a skirt and a top. That's a big thing right now. So, it could have
a DIY potential there.
Yeah. So it has that, appeal to buyers who it would fit as a shirt, and then other people who would make something new with it. Jason says, yep, early 80s. Good call on that.
Okay, cool.
And then one thing that I love to thrift and sell are super all over sequin 80s dresses and tops, which are always fun to have in your closet. If at the drop of a hat you have to go to a dance party protest against Mike Pence, which is something I actually have done. And they are great. So they're great all year round. I mean, they're also good for kind of like New Year's Eve celebrations, that time. But even if they're not rainbow, if they're over the top and colorful and they've got tons of beading and sequins, they're definitely something that people who are going to Pride or going to dance events related to Pride would probably be interested in.
So also, that they missed the ball game. They missed everything. They missed it with that. They probably could have sold it for more. They sold it for 45. I'm guessing that it probably could have gone for more had they mentioned a couple things. Now they did say vintage. I would think, they put the era in that because it looks awful in 80s or 90s to me. Probably 90s. But they also missed Pride. They missed LGBTQ. They missed the boat on that, So I bet, somebody did purchase it probably for Pride, but I would imagine that people also search rainbow but if someone was searching for Pride, they would have completely missed it with that. So
Angelique says it looks Mardi Gras-ish. You're right, it does. The colors look very much like the colors from Mardi Gras more than a rainbow, which I don't know if it's the photo, but it could go either way. Like it could go on contact. It's definitely.
It could be dual purpose there. Yeah. So
it also says on the description there's an inch of missing sequins. These will often be missing sequins, and so that's just something you want to disclose. I don't think I've ever found one that was in perfect, pristine condition.
Yeah, that's.
And then another good thing is people will be looking for items to like sort of practical items for going to Pride. So Nay, you found this example of an amazing crossbody bag that is in the shape of a rainbow, which again, great year round. But if you're looking for something specifically to carry to Pride, it's good because you're in a big crowd. So crossbodies are easy to navigate crowds with, which is always nice.
And that sold for $200.
Yeah, that is quite the bag. And then another one that is a high dollar item, which is more explicitly like Pride colors, but but Michael Kors Pride backpack, and here they did use the Pride rainbow keywords. And this is another item where if you're, you're going to a parade, it's, good. You can load up with your necessities, but also be fun and rainbow. And also you could carry this any day of the year and it would be a cute bag.
And then this also, this sold on Poshmark because of the fact that too, I think it would have sold better on Poshmark because it is one of those Poshmark kind of trendy brands too.
Mm-hmm. So it also is a great example of that wider appeal because, I mean, budget aside, but I'm not a huge fan of Michael Kors, but this would catch my eye if I was scrolling down my feed on Poshmark, and I might consider buying it, even though, it's not a brand I normally gravitate to, although $345 is a little high for me, but.
And then fanny packs are another thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super popular right now.
Last couple years, and that's another thing if you find any rainbow or pride themed fanny packs.
This is a great question, Angelique. What does HP stand for? It stands for Host Pick, which is something unique to Poshmark. It is featured in, or was featured at one point in a Posh party, and that means that it got extra visibility. And it's also something that usually buyers will use as a marketing tool to say, like, my item was so cool, it was featured, kind of thing. But it's not, in my experience, it doesn't help that much. But if you're selling on Poshmark, it's good to know that, the lingo. So that's thanks for asking that. And then I can't believe I forgot about our white whale from last year, Nadine.
I know. So Lola and I missed this. I ran into the IKEA store last year. We missed it. It was
on my birthday too, wasn't it? I was exhausted.
Remember, I pulled into the IKEA parking lot and I ran in because we were looking for these, and they were totally out of them. They had sold out already. He said, the guy there said they sold out like the minute they came in. So these sell out very, very quickly. And they are a thrifter's dream because the big blue bags from IKEA, I'm sure you hear a lot of us in the thrifting community talking about them. They're wonderful for the bins. They're wonderful even for storing your items, for carrying your items, for carrying your packages to the post office. They just serve so many purposes. But not only do they have the wonderful blue bags, but IKEA puts out a rainbow version every year. And it is fantastic, and it's really not expensive, and they do give the proceeds to LGBTQ charities. So,
yeah, and these start getting listed on eBay really fast. And I do remember from last year, the prices on eBay were definitely higher than in store, but not really super outrageous. And I would have been happy paying it. Although once we got it in our heads to like get it from IKEA, we were really set on it.
And so I've seen them like later in the year as the supply dwindles a little more. I've seen them go for like $16, $20 on eBay. So people do, they will pay up for these. So, it's crazy. There is a huge demand for these bags.
Yeah. So if you're near an IKEA and you can check if by some chance they have some, they're probably out, but you never know. Still want one to take to the bins. And then, what was this for?
I was trying to show. So that's what the IKEA. It does go to. I believe it goes to the Trevor Project, which is a fund that supports LGBTQ youth. And also, this is a couple other things that just were in this. Little collage. It was an article that I had read. So Marc Jacobs does a line that goes right to the Equality Federation and those Kind bars, which is a great snack while you're thrifting to bring.
Real.
Yeah. So those are also something that if you want a little snack while you're thrifting, then that's a great way to also support the cause.
Very cool. And then, of course, there are also some amazing LGBT-themed collectibles, which we'll talk more about, more like ephemera in a little bit, but this was just too good to not feature a little sooner. So this is a new in-box gay bomb. So this is a sold, yeah, $240. So these are definitely quite collectible.
Yeah, I found it. There were a couple of those, and they had all sold for about that range. So yeah, that's
And I will say that if you see anything in a vintage store or thrift store that's older and has some like saying on it that says like something gay, as in happy, like it is definitely worth picking up and listing as like a novelty item, because I know so many people who would just like think it's hilarious and buy, little knickknacks that say gay that in a totally like out of context way.
You remember I was thrifting one day, I think it was like last year sometime, and I sent you a tag on a skirt that I had found, and it was like this really tacky, like kind of 80s skirt, and the brand was Gay Girl.
Yes, I remember that.
It was all stained and everything, and it wasn't in good condition, so I didn't buy it. But
if it hadn't been, yes, that is a great example of that. And then this is your sold.
I've sold these. I've sold, this is not one that was, because I have multiple variation, but I have sold them for about that price. I have an endless supply of them. I've thrifted them at Goodwill a while ago. And they also came with bar swizzles that lit up. I did sell the swizzles out and they matched them. But I still have a lot of these bar mats, and they are selling. They came in packs of like 4 or 5 at, I'm assuming that there was a bar in the neighborhood in Philadelphia that probably was, clearing them out, because they had a whole bunch of them at Goodwill. And they were $5 for a pack of 4. I think it was $4.99 for a pack of 4. And I've sold them consistently for between $20 to $25 a piece. So it's like kind of one of those steady sellers that I have. And I still have probably 8 of them left, I think. So 7 available, it says. So that's how many I have left. Yeah. So, but this is what it looks like. And, so that's another thing. If you find things like this that are, great items to pick up.
Yeah, and that's so nice that multi-quantity listing.
Yeah, it was super easy. I listed, and I took Jason's tip on that too, to take, if you have a long item, that you take the picture instead of, taking it like this or like this, because it's you maximize the square format and take it on an angle. So
that's a great tip. And then there are a ton of brands who do Pride collections, and some of them are incredibly sought after, even way more than I would have expected when we first started looking through some of these brands. So, this one, Burberry.
Yes.
It's so cool. It's just like subtly added.
And it's and Burberry still has on their current website. I have that to show. I think you have that in the. You don't have to show it right now if you don't. But
another one.
So there's another one. This is a cape, and this went for $1,490 on Poshmark. Now, I did interestingly see one. I'm going to mention. You have to pay attention to the platform. Now, Burberry's a brand that would sell better on Poshmark. I found the same cape on eBay, same condition, and it sold for $500 plus $124 shipping from Australia. I don't know why the shipping was that much from Australia, but I guess basically it sold for what, 600 something. So a big, huge price difference between eBay and Poshmark for the same exact item. So definitely check.
That is a great thing to point out. I also know the seller mentions that this was worn by Jonathan Van Ness on Queer Eye, which is very cool. And I wonder if that helped too, just because if someone was searching for like that cape that JVN wore on Queer Eye and didn't know. Yeah,
definitely. And I have to say, so definitely do your research on price, on things like that. If you can find a fact like that, like it was worn by someone famous, or and used in a show or something like that. But also the pictures on the one on eBay, and I didn't take a screenshot of that one, but if you can search it and find it easily. But the pictures weren't as good either as the one on Poshmark. So everything, and I think that they also missed out on some keywords. Now they didn't put Pride in their Poshmark title here either.
But
And,
what is in the description says just in time for Pride. So that may have been enough for it to come up.
Okay, yeah.
In a search. But okay, so do you think it's keyword spamming if it is the actual item that was in a show to use that term?
I think you can put it in the description. I don't think that, like with the mug, the big hug mug, that was a big controversy. It went through, Matthew McConaughey. I forget what the show was that it was on.
Oh, was it like True Detective or something?
Yes, thank you. But everyone was putting that in the keywords, and technically, yes, it was keyword spamming. But I think it's kind of like a gray area there. So
yeah, and I mean, I think it's sort of like this is specifically like he was wearing the Burberry.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's better to put something like that in the description, especially with. I think that and I don't want to say that it's okay to do, but I think that, like you have to watch what platform you're doing it onto. Like I know eBay cracks down on that a lot more than Poshmark. However, I'm not saying do it because it's not, you have to follow the rules, but.
Good idea. Good thinking. So Converse is a brand that is really popular, well, among everyone, but definitely.
So they have a whole line, and they also have a Miley Cyrus line. That there are hats that are the I can't say her name, Miley Cyrus Pride items, and she has a whole line, and they all seem to sell for crazy money. It's insane. So these consistently sell for about $150. I even saw some that were pre-owned that were not selling for much less. So. So that's a definite bolo, and there's a lot of other Converse that aren't just the Miley Cyrus line
that are the Pride ones. Yeah.
So we're talking about a lot of brand collabs here. A lot of brands will do a Pride lines, specifically.
Yeah, and this can be like some of these are very limited, and so they're going to be collectible for that reason. But also, someone might just be looking for a Pride Converse in the middle of November.
Yeah.
And it might be easier to find them online than in store. So these are items that definitely have a appeal all year round. And Angelique, another great point. You can do some keyword spamming if you share on social media. Yeah, that is totally fair game. If you're writing a good caption for your social media post to say things like.
Absolutely. You should be I do a lot of sharing my items on Instagram, and you have to pepper them in. You can't just be spamming on Twitter or on Facebook, on Instagram. But, if you do it right, yeah, that's definitely a way to do it. So. Okay, so this is funny. I did
not know this was a thing.
So Coogee apparently did do a Pride shirt, which is, Coogee in itself is, now this only sold for $30. I think they could have probably gotten more for that, but the title is what really made me laugh on this. So I don't know if
on eBay is only $30. I think I want one.
I know, right? So they got creative with their title. What do you think about that, Lola?
I think it's hilarious. In terms of like using keywords judiciously, you're wasting a lot of characters. But I mean, something like this, I give it a pass. That's so good.
Yeah. So
and it is a great shirt. Oh, and I should have.
So that's okay. So there's the Burberry website. Yeah, so you can see that these items are very expensive. And this is the Tears line. They don't have those. They do not have the scarves and the cape on their website this year. So they do change it up. But these are some of the. So what you can do, my recommendation is to scope out websites, see what is happening, and then look for those items in the thrift stores. People may be dumping the items after Pride Month. They may be donating throughout the year. So you can, keep an eye out, and kind of educate yourself on what to keep an eye out for if you look at some of the websites to see what the current Pride collections are, because they're limited every year. Correct, Lola? They're
yeah, for the most part. Like, I think the IKEA bags may be reissued pretty much the same, but things like that. But brands will have unique collections. And another thing is you can sort of look at what styles are in. So, here Burberry has these color block shirts if you see something, a similar style in the thrift store, that might also indicate that that's more trending right now, and that's something people will be looking for. And then
so Fabletics is another one. So these, I should mention that a lot of these collaborations, and I use some of the website ones as an example, that these are some of the ones that actually go to a good charity cause. Like Nike, I don't, as far as I can see anyway, they don't give to any LGBTQ charity. They do. It is definitely cool that they do a Pride line, that they do the Pride items, because it's still supporting the LGBTQ community, but it's not actually giving back. So, you know, you'll see that this is going to the It Gets Better project, a nonprofit organization working to upload and empower LGBTQIA youth. So this is an example of, you know, and Kate Hudson actually has an ad campaign for this right now. Because this is her company. So,
and you just reminded me that this is one company, Fabletics, and another one that comes to mind is Savage by Fenty, where in order to buy them online through their website, you have to like pay a membership fee or sign up for sort of like recurring monthly charge. So there are definitely people who are interested in the items who would much rather prefer buying it either new or used through something like Poshmark, because they don't trust themselves to, you know, sign up once and cancel without forgetting, which totally I'm one of those people who would do that. So I have done that. I've bought Savage by Fenty like bras on Poshmark because not only were they a great deal, but I didn't run that risk. So those are some brands that have that extra potential appeal because they do have a good following. And then we talked about Kate Spade on our last episode, which should probably have mentioned at the top of the show. We did re-record, so we have a new, cleaner, less chaotic version on our channel. So if you missed it last week, you can go look for that now, because I know some people were looking for it after it happened live and couldn't find it. So that's what happened. And that's a beautiful bag. And then Levi's.
Guys also they Outright Action is their international. They donate to that. But I love their website. I wanted to show this because they show such wonderful diversity on their models. You know, it's not just somebody wearing it. It's, you know, couples and, you know, hugging, and, you know, it's they have, you know, they represent the transgender community and things like that. So I just love that their website, their models are so diverse.
Yeah, they have some great ads too. I do love though that they put out these like assless chaps as jeans that I am 99% sure this is just a publicity stunt, because I've seen them like all over Instagram as people like laughing at them, but here they are with all the other Pride stuff as if they're totally normal.
So funny.
And Marc
Jacobs, I mentioned that. So this is something that, you know, you can resell, and you never know, they might come up, you know, you want to obviously for it to be new, but you never know what you're going to find in the bins, or somebody's overstock, you know, at a thrift store or whatever. So yeah, so these are very sought after, and they do they also support a charity that supports LGBTQ youth, and that's a Marc Jacobs. Now there's other Marc Jacobs items too, so but that's one of the ones that is really awesome. Yeah.
And then Rockies didn't know that they did a Pride edition. These are, I mean, it's a great bolo brand no matter what the pattern, but
yeah.
So not surprising, actually, according to the Poshmark price, went for more than retail.
Yeah, definitely, because they're retired and they're just, Starbucks does a whole line. There's, you know, you can see it's kind of glitzy and fun and rainbow. So, and that went for 40. And I know that in the original Starbucks store and this is the 2020 version. So, you know, I don't know how, you know, you might want to go and look at your local Starbucks because they might sell out in one region and people are looking for them. But I know that this mug wasn't originally $40. So
Angelique has a great story. I'm not going to pull it up on the on the screen because it's a little risque and also long, but if you're watching this later, it's probably in the chat replay.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
And Puma is another one. They do a whole Pride, and they also, it goes to LGBTQIA charities. So, you know, you might also be able to, I mean, if you might be able to retail arbitrage some of these things, you know, but I think also no matter what, and we're going to talk about this, you know, the second time around, you can also give back to a charity. So it's a double, even if the first time around it went to a, you know, to proceeds to a charity, the second time around you can give back with eBay Giving Works too.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about that too.
And then always classic. Not only have they always been very popular with the queer community, but now they are back in style trending among everyone. So their rainbow boots, another thing that's definitely sought after on the secondhand market outside of Pride season, but obviously within Pride season as well.
And they're sold for $160 on Posh. So, yep.
And then these were the Nike ones.
Nike has a whole line. They have the slides, the sandals, everything. They do not originally give to, from what I've found on their website, to any charity. They do support. Yeah, that's at least. And if I'm wrong, you know, someone can correct me, and I will. You know, if I find anything to the contrary, I'll certainly put that in you know, in the notes after. But as far as what I can see, they don't. So
interesting. And then another company I wouldn't have thought.
They have a huge Pride, and they have a whole, this is on their website, you know, that they support, and they do give to, they do help LGBTQ youth, and they talk all about, you know, togetherness and everything, and they donate $125,000 to GLAD, which is a nonprofit, accelerating acceptance and advanced equality for the LGBTQ community. So very cool. Yeah, I was really impressed with that. And then Under Armour is another one. They have a whole line too. So these are all brands that you can look for in the thrift store. Vans, you had mentioned that, Lola, I think.
Vans are another brand of shoe that's always been super popular with queer people. And like this pair is this current or? Okay, this is a current listing, so they might be shooting a little high.
Yeah.
But even though, I mean, these are in pretty beat up condition, I could see them going for a decent amount, because you probably could wash them and get some of that out. And then also, you know, these are limited edition, and Vans new are pretty expensive and they take a beating. So, you know, you could buy a used pair and still get a lot of wear out of them. Yeah. Jason says, his pug is also an ally of the gay community. Pug pride is definitely a thing. That is totally legit. We joke that my cat Teddy is a little gay man. So
that's so funny.
He's a princess. And we wanted to give a shout out to some of the places that we thrift that do support the queer community as well. So we mentioned Philly AIDS Thrift a lot as one of our favorite places to shop in Philadelphia, and there are other places in other cities like Housing Works in New York. But you know, no matter where you are, there's probably maybe a local charity thrift shop near you. And it's so another way that, you know, Nay was talking about the like double give back. So, you know, you could thrift at a place that supports LGBT folks, and then also maybe do a charity auction or a charity listing on eBay if you wanted to, and then you're giving back twice. So that's
So yeah, there's a lot of LGBTQ owned thrifts, and also, you know, they go to charities. So definitely support that way.
And we've already discussed a bit about different platforms. So, you know, obviously we saw Poshmark is good for more high-end trendy brands, eBay for more broadly collectible items, Etsy, you know, lots of different pride-related items on Etsy, lots of handmade items, but also a perfect place for vintage because people there are looking for those fun, funky, different, and unique items, as well as on Poshmark. And then, so this is another set of listings from Etsy, so you can get an idea of the broad kinds of items that are available there.
Also, the handmade touch on the items
Yes,
is another.
for sure. And I was a little disappointed. So eBay is awesome that they do have a Celebrate Pride feature on their homepage, but most of it does seem like it is sort of mass produced. Potentially, some of these sellers might be based in China. I didn't look through them all, but that, we know that's just been an issue on eBay. So I'm worried that they're promoting sellers that aren't the like small sellers that I would like to see them promoting, but we all exist there too. So if we list more Pride items, maybe eBay will feature us in their Pride page. And this is a example of some of the solds on eBay of more ephemera related items that are collectible. So magazines, books, and things like posters, I would all consider under this sort of umbrella. As you can see, they are all pretty, solid prices here. And so they are sought after. Some items on eBay, I saw current listings have astronomical prices. So I wasn't able, because these items are not that common, I wasn't able to figure out exactly if these were, way too high, kind of reaching for the stars prices, or if they just, looking for the right buyer. But these are auctions that, and I do wonder if they were not at auction, they could maybe have gotten more.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, because a lot of these are one-off items too that you're not going to find. So and also erotica is another thing that's really you can see some of this is
yes.
erotica theme. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So any of these items, so like I said, books like erotica, or also novels, especially older editions. A lot of these books were issued in multiple small printings, so the older the better. And many of these things, there aren't that many copies of because people wouldn't keep them for safety reasons, or because they were, in someone's estate when they passed away and the family was embarrassed to find it. There are all kinds of reasons why these wouldn't be saved. So magazines, another great piece of ephemera that, especially because they are reporting and history on the pages of the magazine, those are quite sought after. Larry Kramer sadly just passed away, so I think this poster signed by him probably it was listed at the right time and may have gone for more than usual, but he's also an icon and was very instrumental in the ACT UP movement. So and actually was kind of lovely to see him remembered before he passed away because of COVID, when people were looking back to AIDS as the last pandemic that people were addressing in the science community. And so there's some, if you're interested in more of this, there's some great articles about him and how we knew Fauci and how they sparred over ways they thought that the AIDS epidemic should be handled. So very timely on that item. And then this is so funny. Nay and I last night were working on our show outline at the same time on Google Docs. And at the same time, we both typed Tom of Finland.
Yes, we were both editing it. I could see her typing away and I was typing at a different spot. And we both did simultaneous. That's like a surefire example of how Lola and I are.
We're not in the same city, we share a brain. So
yeah.
Tom of Finland is an artist who's known for extremely erotic art. You can imagine what's behind the little red bar on this book. All of his work is quite collectible. I completely randomly once, when we were thrifting together, discovered that he actually had a line of clothing. So I found a pair of jeans. They were mis-shelved in the women's section of the store. And they said Tom of Finland, and I happened to know who he was. So I looked it up, and sure enough, they're pretty rare. The line only existed for a handful of years. There wasn't a lot made, but they are collectible because he has a pretty big following in sort of the gay world. I wouldn't say LGBT more broadly, but specifically for gay men. So I bought them for like $4 and I flipped them for like 80. And if it weren't for the fact that I had encountered his art in a college class, I would have had no idea that that was something that was different than all the other jeans in the rack. So, you know, it's always good to know these names, because even if you don't find his artwork, then you might find a pair of jeans. Yeah, Jason, I'd love to know what else you found of his stuff, because that was the only time I've ever found anything of his in the thrift store.
I was actually thrifting with Jason at Giovanni's.
And that would be a good place to
find of Finland items there. And I think one of them, I know he sold it for quite a bit. You know, I know he's flipped a few items that in the past that, you know, he showed me the solds, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
yeah. And then yes. I thought I had an image in here of lesbian pulp novels, which are one of my favorite things. And I have yet to find in a while.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So they're a whole genre that peaked, it was most popular like mid-century. And now, of course, they have a resurgence because they're seen as this like really quirky piece of history. They had extremely risque covers. And most of them ended extremely sadly because the only way that they could get around censors was to have some sort of like moralizing tale. So, you know, the women who were led astray and had this like scandalous romance and then fall to ruin. So some of them were actually reissued later when it became more acceptable to write about women in love together, that they were given a happier ending, or at least a less tragic ending. So there's many different editions of a lot of these books. The most well-known one right now is probably called The Price of Salt, which is the book that Carol, the movie, was based on. And so that one, you will see there are new editions that were released at the time of the movie. There are editions from like the 70s and 80s, and there are editions that were originally printed under a pseudonym, Claire Morgan, and then also the author's real name, Patricia Highsmith, who also wrote the books Strangers on a Train and The Talented Mr. Ripley, I think. So she was well known as like a suspense thriller writer and didn't want to be associated with her writing of lesbian novels, even though she herself was queer. So that's, you know, one of those examples of how things change over time. So the older copies, extremely valuable. The less old copies, you know, as long as they're not the modern reprints, definitely still, even the modern ones are still going for like $8-10, but that's probably in like new condition. So anything that's been, any vintage copy of these books is probably worth picking up and may easily be hiding in a thrift store among all the other mass market paperbacks, because they're not, you know, super obvious from their spines. But if you look at the covers, you will recognize them. They have a very distinctive, of, you know, that mid-century pulp kind of aesthetic on their covers.
I bet that's something you can find at, you know, at a store like Giovanni's too.
Yeah, it does not surprise me at all. That's hilarious. And thanks for tuning in and celebrating with us, Bobbies. Our pleasure to do a Pride show.
Yeah.
And so, as Nay was saying earlier, you can definitely sort of opposite of double dip, double give by buying an item from, say, a thrift store and then selling on eBay for charity. So, Nay, do you want to talk a little bit about eBay?
So if you pull up, if you want to search for the charities that you can, now when you list, you can also pull it up in the, you know, while you're listing, you can pull up all the charities, but you can, you know, you can scope out the charities that you would feel comfortable giving to in advance. If you go to the eBay for charity page, which is ebay.com, and I can't.
It's charity.ebay.com.
Charity, thank you. So yeah, so if you just, and you can just Google that on the homepage too. I mean, search on the homepage rather. But you can, if you put in LGBTQ and then you search, you will come up with a bunch of different causes, and some might be local to you too. I noticed there's a lot of smaller causes, which is really cool. Like a lot of youth community, local services and things like that. So, but there's such a long list. I think there were like 8 or 9 pages.
There were way more than I
was really surprised. Yeah.
So here's some more. And yeah, definitely some of these are local. They're not ones that I'm familiar with. So, you can go on here and find the one that speaks most to you. So that's very cool. And so then these are an example of some of the items that are on eBay for charity.
Yeah. So on the opposite side, you can purchase and support charities. And here is how you find, if you search Pride charity instead of just searching Pride item, then it will because eBay puts that little red text in the listing that says benefits charity. Then you can go through those listings and click on the ones that benefit a charity that you might want to give to. I clicked on on those pins, and there it says benefit, and then it's 10%, and it'll show you how much will support and to what cause it's going to. Some of them I noticed were benefited charity, but they weren't going to an LGBTQ charity, which is fine too. It's going to charity, yeah. But just make sure that if you are buying something to support charity, that you look into what charity they're supporting. But I mean, all of the eBay charities are going to be legit. Some do different things with their funds than others. So you want to you still might want to do your research, but they don't obviously to be an eBay Giving Works charity, you have to be vetted and legit. So
that's great to know.
Yeah. Is that everything for?
Yeah. So that was the end of our photos. We do a couple more things to add, which we're already well over an hour. So you can just touch on them briefly, but some other things that you can do to support are that there are some items that are in particular need by members of the trans community who that charities will accept and then give to people who can use them. So one of them is binders, which are garments that are worn as an undergarment. They look a little bit like a sports bra mixed with an ace bandage, so they restrict the chest more. And there are charities that will accept these gently used as well as new. So if you happen to find some that are gently used, and from what I could tell, the gently used is a sort of broad term in this case, so it doesn't have to be like barely, like it can have signs of wear. I have personally never found a binder in the wild, but who knows? So that's one thing that you could maybe look out for, and definitely there are a lot of trans kids who could really use them. And then the other item is bras, which trans women can definitely use if they're first transitioning and trying to figure out what's right. A lot of times it takes a trial and error to figure out what size you are in clothing that you're not familiar with yet. So there are charities that will also collect gently used, in this case, definitely gently used and new bras, and give them to women in need. And a lot of these also are not necessarily like specifically LGBT charities, but work with women in general to provide bras. Because as we all know, if you wear a bra, they're super expensive and a pain to shell out money for if you're low on funds. So, great work that these groups do. And that's always something that you can think of if you find bras, as it's one thing that we always are looking out for as thrifters, that you can consider them.
I don't know if we skipped over it. I don't know if you mentioned it. I'm sorry, I missed it. But a lot of transgender, a lot of women are looking for larger size shoes. So if you find heels and nice shoes in larger sizes, that's another thing. Dresses and tall sizes and things like that. And
on the flip side, smaller men's clothing.
And smaller men's, yes, exactly. And gender neutral fashion, which we are going to we're going to be doing a show about that. I don't know if we're going to
promise that they would love to come on and talk about gender neutral clothing as a gender nonconforming person and what they look for. And of
Yes,
course,
that's Lola's spouse, Chris. That
yes, yeah. There are, for some people, it's way easier to make their first purchases of gender affirming clothing online so that they don't have to go into a store and deal with the checkout. So that's one thing that we can do as sellers, is to have those, maybe hard to find sizes, or, just to be completely non-judgmental. If someone is buying something from you and you don't, you're surprised by the name, like, just don't say anything.
And yeah, I've had men buy, men's names, a man's name by a woman's, or, vice versa. And I don't, you can't, I think it's great. I think it's great that we're, helping people in that way. So,
yeah. And on that note too, there are some charities that work with the trans community to offer clothing swaps, to host clothing swaps. So if you're starting to wear a different kind of gender presentation in your clothing, you can bring your old stuff and swap it with someone who's transitioning the other way. But as allies, if you're not a trans person in that situation, and we know we all have death piles, if you want to pick out some of, what you think is fun, current clothing that, not the stuff that you don't want, that no one wants, but like, if you want to do something great for the queer community, you can always get some of your death pile out the door and to people who can really use it. So
good point. Yeah, I didn't
another type of charity to look for.
So yeah, so we will be doing an upcoming show probably this month, because we're going to be doing some other Pride celebration kind of stuff, this month. So.
Mm-hmm. And Nay also wanted to point out Jason's great idea, who's still in the chat, I think. Jason, if he finds a pride flag, will either auction it off for charity or give it to someone who can fly it proudly, who's a member of the LGBT community. So, and I did want to note that if you're not familiar, there are a ton of different pride flags. So the rainbow is the most common, but there are bi, lesbian, gay, and trans flags also. So you may come across those when you're thrifting as well. And are you ready for our market report, Nay?
Yeah, I have a screaming child, so hopefully that won't affect it. Okay, so yeah, let me go quick. So yeah, I had 2 solds this week. So this was a Lily, and I think I showed this in our Lily show.
Yeah, I recognized it when I saw the photo.
Yeah, so I paid $3.99. I did take it. I did sell it for $24.99, which, I probably could have gotten maybe a little more for it, but I was happy with that. That it was just a basic t-shirt, and Lily has been on the decline a little bit lately. I think less so for the vintage items, but this was a more modern item, and it was a small size. It was a small, so I was happy with that sale.
Yeah, and that is a cute summer top, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, very cute. And then I sold this a lot. I paid this for the whole bag. I paid $5.99 at Goodwill, and I took an offer for $99 plus shipping. So I was happy with that yarn, and they were not even all complete cones, and which I mentioned in the listing, and it was approximately 3 pounds for the whole entire. And I did take a picture of all of it on the scale to show, so they knew what they were getting, but different fibers. But really, more high-end kind of yarn. So,
yeah, great fibers. But I think you did really well in that sale. I know I was telling you last time you might have understood.
I know, last time you're like, oh, you undervalue that a little. Yeah, so I think I did well on this. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then this was one of my items this week. Is also something that appeared on the show before. So this is a beautiful. It was a plus size ModCloth dress. It was new with tags. I found it at Goodwill's pristine condition, still had part of the original tag, so I listed it as new without tags, and it had tons of likes, sold within 2 or 3 days, I think, for, I took an offer, but my original price was built in to have an offer, so at one point when I first found it, it was still available on the website on sale for less than this, so super happy. And then on our today's topic, this is another item that may have actually been in that same haul that we did, but this is a book of photographs about Vanessa Bell, who was part of, you know, a notable queer community in history, and not surprised that this sold right at the beginning of Pride Month on Amazon. I forget exactly what it was. It was, I think, around $30. So not like astronomically high sale, but definitely I think I paid $1.99 or $1 for it. And I'm sure it wasn't a super common book, so I'm sure it's going to someone who's really excited to get their hands on it, and it seemed very appropriate. And some breaking thrifting news. We did want to talk a little bit about how every different platform that we sell on is reacting to current events and understanding, you know, what protests are happening right now and things like that. And Nay did a ton of work to kind of track down what every platform's statement was. And since we're running a little bit long, I will just go through really briefly that it seems that most platforms did have a pretty good statement. They did acknowledge what was happening. Mercari in particular was the only one that said only like, sorry, you can't donate to causes through our platform. Here are some links to charities you can donate to on your own. So just to flip through really fast.
Mercari really didn't address it as properly.
A trend of the,
yeah.
So this was really, you know, pretty standard, and Mercari, that's what they did. So, and if we missed something that they said, our apologies, Mercari. Please correct us if we're wrong.
They did on their Instagram feed. They did do the blackout Tuesday.
Okay.
They didn't make that, but they didn't. Yeah, but that was it. They didn't make any formal announcement or donate, as far as I can see. eBay's donating. Poshmark is. Etsy is, and Etsy is also doing something that's really cool. Did you have the art from that? Yeah. So they're also doing something, even taking it a step further. And no, the black shops.
Oh. I see. Sorry, keep talking.
So they're featuring Black-owned businesses as well, Black-owned shops on Etsy, which is really cool. You know, so there's a full page on their website with it's right on the top, prominent link, and you can click on that, and it's just all African American. My dog's barking.
And I did want to mention too that I think it was delaying their feature of Pride Month items as well. So because we were looking at what platforms were celebrating Pride, and I think, you know, that may just be a little bit different this year. So that was very nice to see on Etsy's part, and, you know, just providing information. Do with it what you will, but I think it's important to keep an eye and be aware of those things. So I think things are getting a little crazy on your end today. So probably
it's starting to go downhill a little.
Yeah, no worries.
I think that everybody. I brought it to my kids today. I know that's like, you know, kind of not a Mom of the Year award thing, but I told them that they could each spend $10 on eBay or you know, online on something if they were really well behaved today. So so far the only one that I couldn't bribe was the dog. So
who doesn't understand $10 with the dog?
Now I do want to show, I have a couple more Pride items. I'm gonna mute to show them.
Okay. That's fun. This is kind of
from the 80s. That is, and you can see from the pictures, the stock pictures that are in there.
Very cool. This is like pantomime. This is really fun.
Yeah, there's screaming going on, so we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Fine. So we do have a question for everyone, which is, we would love to know what kind of Pride thrifted items you have found, And if you are also a member of the LGBT community like I am, I would love to know how you show your pride and celebrate, and what kind of vintage or, thrifted fun pride items you have sported proudly at pride events. So you can find us all over the internet. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us, follow and message us on Instagram, and follow our stores on Poshmark, Depop, and eBay. And we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.